So this talk will be on medical case studies of additive manufacturing. So if you see the outline of my presentation, so we'll quickly see how we can create an interface medical engineering application with additive. Quickly we'll see how we can say integrate additive manufacturing technology with the medical field. And as we know that additive, we need a digital data. So digital data in medicine, so now thanks to the computers, so you have CT, MRI data. So the medical image processing, now it is digital. So where that is the start point of your medical application of additive manufacturing. So you have either a CT data or a MRI data or ultrasound data or a PET, any scanning modality. So you have a DICOM is the one neutral file. So you can get these medical images in a DICOM form. So then that DICOM images will be imported to any one of the medical image processing softwares. So in my talk, we have used a software Mimix, Materialize, that is the software. So you can use any medical image processing software to convert your DICOM images. Further, you can segregate your tissues from whole bunch of tissues. You may be interested at a particular point of time, maybe bone, you may not be interested with the soft tissue. Then you can segregate your the area of interest as well as the tissue of interest. So then we are going to use a medical image processing for that. And once you have done that medical image processing of the images, so then we can save there itself as STL file. So basically we need to have an STL file to 3D print it or to additively manufacture your model. In this case is a bio model which it has been acquired from the patient data. And then though you have say virtual images, but still why we need to have a physical model in medicine? Not only in medicine, even in engineering also, if we have a prototype or a model in a physical form, obviously it will give a touch and feel. That is much important in biomedical applications. A surgeon wants to operate on a particular patient, so the physical models are very much important here. We'll try to see what is the role of physical models in medical applications. And material is very important as far as medical application is concerned. So we have been discussing several materials which can be additively manufactured, right? But we cannot use all the additively manufactured materials for biomedical applications. We have a stringent requirements, something like biocompatibility, right? So then when can you say a material is bio-qualified, right? So then we'll try to see biomaterials that can additively manufactured. We have two things here. So if you have 100 materials, among the 100 materials, you may able to manufacture through additive maybe some 50 materials, for example. I may be exaggerated. Among the 50 materials, maybe a five or six number of materials may be qualified for bio applications. Means you must have some stringent requirements. Not all the engineering materials are qualified for the bio applications. So among the qualified biomaterials, then another constraint is that should be additively manufactured. You are talking about you want to create an interface with the additive manufacturing and medical applications. So we'll try to see the biomaterials that can be additively manufactured. And then, yeah, we have been discussing 7 AM techniques. But each AM technique, it will have its own unique capability. So then, how do you see in the medical perspective of these AM processes and application wise? I'm going to touch up that also. And finally, how do you develop a medical application taking a CT data to develop a device or a implant or a prosthesis or maybe a support device like a guide or even it could be, say, for surgical usage, pre-planning the surgery, or rehearsal the surgery. So how do you see that printed model? So how do you make use of that? Then how do you develop such kind of medical applications? We'll try to see. And finally, we have collaborated with couple of hospitals in Hyderabad as well in Nellore. So I'm going to share our experience working on these cases, medical cases, using additive manufacturing as a model or an implant or a prosthesis or maybe device. And then what could be the future of this medical additive manufacturing? That is none other than organ printing. What is organ printing? So again, organ printing, if you talk about, then what could be the material that you are going to print it, right? So majority of the time, your material is synthetic, man-made material. But in case of organ printing, the living cells of the own patient is going to become a material that you are going to print it, right? So that is going to be the future in medical application is concerned. I will try to give the state of art in the direction of organ printing. So that is what I planned, maybe another 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes. Probably 1 hour I will restrict because you have some other plans anyway. So this is the typical medical AM process, right? So it should start with a CT or a MRI scan data. So basically CT or MRI scan data is a grayscale images. So it is a grayscale image where you have a different contrast and different brightness, right? Say, and if you take a skull, for example, you take the skull, you want to scan it, typically it may be 500 or 600 slices, again depends on the slice thickness that you are setting it in a CT scanner. So typically you have some 300 or 400 slices of data with the skull that it has been acquired from the patient. And if you take the skull, so skull is a bone, and if you see inside the skull, you have a brain, that is a soft tissue, and you have cerebrospinal fluid, so that is a body fluid. So, but you may be targeting only skull, you don't want to get the brain information, for example. So in that case, we need to have a medical image processing software which can segregate which tissue of interest or region of interest you are looking at. So then you segregate that region of interest or the tissue of interest and you reconstruct them. Why? Because basically it is a two-dimensional images. So then your 3D printer or additive manufacturing machine, it requires a three-dimensional STL probably. So the STL file, so which we can reconstruct from the two-dimensional images to three-dimension and reconstruct it as STL format. Now your journey is smooth now. Once you have a STL file, let it be a skull model, let it be an aero engine. Your machine won't care what could be the geometry, right? So, and human anatomy is supposed to be the complex geometry. That's where this guy is winner. Additive is a winner where you have a much complex structures. Of course, human anatomy supposed to be the highest complexity, right? You have a lot of neurovascularity inside your body, right? And once you reconstruct an STL file, and then depending on the facility you have, you may have extrusion-based AM machine or powder bed or DED or material jetting or binder jetting or VAT system, or it may be a sheet lamination, whichever among 7 processes you have, and it follows the cycle of that. So means taking a powder and then yesterday also we have seen how a powder bed laser based machine works, right? So, or even it could be FDM based. So then once you make layer by layer, then now how do you see that model? How do you see that printed anatomy that it has been captured from the patient, right? So then how do you see means you can use in several applications. We'll try to see some of them from the literature as well as with our experience with the surgeons that I'm going to share with you. So if you try to see the applications industry wise, So consumer products and electronics, that is 21.8%. That is the biggest share, and followed by motor vehicle, that is automobile and automotive together, 18.6. And it is almost on par with your automotive and automobile application. Your medical is sitting at the third place. Medical and dental together 16.4. This is the Holler's statistic report. So one can not ignore the medical application of additive manufacturing. And you try to put it in a Gartner cycle. So that is expectations versus time. So you can see right from the technology trigger to the plateau of productivity. So as we know that this journey was started with prototyping. That's what you used to call this technology, the rapid prototyping. The prototyping applications, almost it is touching to the productivity stage, followed by non-critical aerospace applications, and coming to medical, orthopedicians or early users of this technology. The reason is simple. Orthopedicians, they work hardly on the bones or the joints, right? And then you have a jewelry applications, domestic home applications, and dental. Dental in terms of dental crowns, dental implants, right? Dental bridges. So you have several applications of dental, and then critical aerospace applications, architecture, sports, education, and bioprinting. This is quite interesting. Organ printing or bioprinting or regenerative medicine, whatever you call. It's coming in a big way, but we have to wait a lot, maybe 20, 25 years. Maybe why? Because it's at the very beginning stage. So medical research and clothing, 3D printed clothes is coming in a big way. And construction industry, the additive is coming in a big way. Military electronics is another area where you can see, right? So then one cannot ignore the medical application of additive manufacturing from the statistics. So then the journey starts with medical imaging data. If you try to see this, the medical scanning modalities, it was started with the X-ray, but the problem with the X-ray, it is analogous film, one cross section at a time you are going to take, right? Basically that is a analog data, but now you have a computers, you have a computed tomography or magnetic resonance imaging called MRI. So your journey starts with either a CT or a MRI data that has been captured from the patient, and now you have these two-dimensional cross-sectional grayscale images. Now we have discussed, you have a software or which is a tool can process these images. Again, if you try to see a COVID patient, so a chest CT has been taken. So at this point of time for the COVID patient, so you may be much worried about the lungs, how much infection that the lungs, right? So in that case, you may not be bothered right now at this point of time, the ribs or the spine. So you are going to segregate the lungs, that is soft tissue, with respect to other surrounding tissues, right? So then you can adopt any medical image processing tool for that. So then you reconstruct which organ of interest. In this case, the organ of interest is lungs. So then you can segregate and save it as STL file and give it to the 3D printer and get the model. And then you can back and forth, say transfer your data to the CAD system or to the medical image processing, vice versa. Why? Because we need to design a customized implant. So AM is meant for customization, personalization. That is very much needed for the medical application. Each person is unique in his anatomy, right? And over the years, you put up the age and your body will get deteriorated, right? So, but you can exactly replicate or you can exactly mimic the anatomy of the patient, and then you may be taking this data, medical data, to the CAD software or vice versa. So then you can import this data to the CAD, or from the CAD to the medical you can do, and simulation. So you design one implant, say you have a femoral joint here. So you have a pelvic joint and you have femur bone here, and this is joint here. So somebody has met with an accident or some kind of trauma, so he broke his joint, for example, and then you are trying to design a customized implant here. You have designed, by scanning the patient data, and then you have designed. And before printing it, or before he or she going to operate, then we need to check the fitment of this joint, right? So then you can do a lot of simulation in this kind of tools. And 3D computer models, so we need to take it this data into 3D, or you have designed some joint or implant where we need to test against the maximum load conditions. So maybe you have a femur bone or a tibia bone. So obviously we need to go with the FEA analysis. But like if you take a neurosurgeon or a say a cardiac, so they want to study the blood flow or the fluid flow, then you can take this data into a CFD analysis, vice versa, right? So then depends, like whether it is structural analysis or a fluid flow analysis, depending upon the medical application that you are working, so you can do that. And then you need to make a physical model. Like you can see there is a tumor here for the patient. So you can print this model along with the tumor and the skull bone, and you give this model to the surgeon, and he can rehearsal the surgery exactly where is the tumor position and how he can resect. And while doing the real operation, so he can follow the same procedure. Basically, he is going to say optimize or reducing the operating time and increasing the precision. That's what it's going to give. Your additive manufactured biomodels that you are going to get it, so it will enhance the say the safety as well as the operating time has been reduced, right? So in that way, so then you can make a physical model also, then supply to the surgeon. Or for design validations, you do some kind of implant, so do the design validation for that. So you try to see some tools available in medical image processing software, like Mimics is one of the medical image processing software, and Simpleware another one. But both of them are proprietary softwares. But if you are looking for a open source software, this is 3D Slicer. It's a free of cost. So it will almost have the features which a proprietary or a commercial software will have. Basic tools like importing the DICOM images and applying thresholding and region grow and say saving as a STL file. So all that stuff can be done with the open source software like a 3D Slicer. Yeah, then you have a lot of virtual models. Then why we need to have a physical model, which it has been, say, acquired data from the patient, then why you want to print it, right? So why you want to print it, like say, your surgeon's confidence levels will be high. Why? Because if you printed this model, for example, you take this is a reconstruction surgery, maxillofacial reconstructive surgery. So in this case, so this patient who needs this kind of an implant here at the zygomatic arch as well as this orbital rim. So where your eyeball will be sitting here in this orbital rim position. So means at least your ophthalmologist must be involved in this surgery, and oral maxillofacial, and of course a neurosurgeon can also be the part of this surgery, right? But you have a multi professional specialized people here and patient as well. So you can have this kind of a model. They can plan very well. They can design the implant, and you can educate the patient once you have a physical model with you, and you should not get panicked, the patient, right? So then you can very well educate before he operates, he or she going to operate, right? And then you have a better communication between the surgical teams, and you have a good education to the patient, and it also assists the surgeons to diagnose and surgical planning. So before goes into operation theater, say he can plan very well, right? What kind of say tools or what kind of instruments or what kind of device he has to carry, he or she, right? And he can plan very well, and sometimes just for diagnosing purpose. Maybe that's the first level of application of any medical AM printed model, just for the diagnosing the, maybe, depends. Or even we need to do a rehearsal of the surgery on this model. So he or she should not do on the patient in the real time. So they can do a lot of rehearsal, and they can do a lot of simulation, or they can come out with the best or the optimal surgical procedure, which it may not be there before. So that is possible. Why? Because it can give you an innovative surgical procedure. Why? Because each patient is unique and the reasons may be different. So as an engineer, we can standardize, like you follow ASTM, ISO for a particular kind of a test procedure. But that is not the case for the surgeons. Why? Because the reasons will be several. They cannot standardize saying that if this is a surgery, yes, I can. No, that is not the case. Each case is unique, right? But anyway, so they can come out with an innovative surgical procedure once you have these kind of models with them. And you can create a customized prosthesis. So somebody had some, say 1 ear or one eye has gone. So you can take scan of it and you can very well customize any prosthesis for that matter. And not only prosthesis, you can even place these implants accurately. So you have this implant, so you can accurately place without misplacing your eyeball into the orbital rim. Why? Because this is affecting your orbital rim as well as the zygomatic arch. So you can very well place intact these implants once you have a model with you. And then how do you get manufactured? Again, we have been discussing the limitations of the additive manufacture, the subtractive versus additive. So additive is very good without additional cost, means which we discussed in the first lecture also. It's a free of cost. Complexity is a free of cost, right? So that's where all these complex geometries, you have a lot of undercuts, voids, say internal geometries like neurovascular, any bioanatomy, right? So which is a patient anatomy. So it's very complex, right? It's very difficult to do a conventional, traditional manufacturing method, but without any additional cost. So you could able to do this. And coming to materials, yes, we discussed. I don't want to repeat this slide. We have discussed in the first lecture also. And you have, AM processes, we have been discussing for the past 4 days. Yeah, you have several materials. Let me focus on the biomaterials, right? So why, how do you define this biomaterial? So what is a biomaterial? So biomaterial, if you see the definition, this is the synthetic material or a man-made material. So that is used to replace or restore a function to a body tissue. It may be a continuously or intermediately in contact with the body fluid. So that's where it will become very tough. Not all engineering materials are qualified. Why? Because it may be continuously or intermediately in contact with the body fluid. So and then so you are trying to replace or restore a particular function of a particular say body part or tissue, whatever it is. So and first and foremost, it should be a biocompatible material. What is a biocompatible material or biocompatibility? It should not elicit any kind of adverse responses from the body or vice versa. Once you put it inside the body, that kind of biomaterial, so it should not create any toxic environment in your body. So means it should not, it should be a non-toxic and it should be non-carcinogenic. Means it should not create any say cancerous kind of thing inside your body, right? And also it should, because of these stringent requirements, majority of our engineering materials may not be qualified for the bio material. And not only these requirements, then you try to see the kind of physical and the mechanical properties that your biomaterial is going to. It is almost try to mimic. If it is a bone, it should behave like a bone, right? And like say wherever you are using it, you have a different requirements. If it is a joint, if it is a knee joint, you have a different requirements, right? And if you have a TMJ, that is this is also joint. You have a temporomandibular joint. There is a joint here, and you have a joint here, and you have a joint here. But all the joints are different requirements, right? So it may be a mechanical, say physical properties that you are looking at that should match or nearly match whatever the tissue or the body part you are targeting to replace, right? And then of course the manufacturability. It should be amicably available and it should be easily processed. That's what your additive is here, like you can easily process any complex structures. And you try to see some polymers. So you see the polymer group. So you have plenty of polymers, biopolymers. You have a polyethylene and you have a polypropylene, PET, you have a polyamides, PTFE, and you have polyesters, PVC, PMMA, silicons and hydrogels. And you try to see these materials where it can be implanted or where it can be placed So because running short of time, I am not going in depth. So on seeing this image, one can understand. So the biopolymers can be used almost like, say, head to the toe. You have a different the parts where you can replace the respective say the organs or the tissues, right? So you have all these materials and metals, right? Metal and metal alloys. So you have right from the 316L steel, right? It's a compatible material, and titanium 64 is predominant, and you have other titanium alloy which is biocompatible and FDA has been approved. And you have cobalt chrome alloys, and you have a nickel titanium, and you have gold, and you have a silver, and you have platinum, and you have amalgams for dental restorations. All these metal or metal alloys, so that too almost everything you can 3D print it or additively manufacture it. So that's the thing where we need to find what kind of process we are going to use for processing these kind of materials. And talking about ceramics, so you have alumina, zirconia, calcium phosphate, bioactive glasses, porcelain, carbon. So you can very well do this kind of a thing. If you take a bone substitute, probably hydroxyapatite, right? HAP. So which calcium phosphate or hydroxyapatite, so which you can 3D print it now. And then composites, though you have a few composites, yes, it's possible to even process the composites for dental restorations or kind of dental cements. So you can have biocomposites also. Yeah, and then that is about the materials. So then what about the processes? So if you try to see the VAT, I'm not going to repeat the principle of VAT photopolymerization process. The idea here is, so we can make 100% see-through materials, epoxy resins, which we can see almost like transparent, 100% see-through. Why we need such kind of requirement of that material, right? Say for example, if you take, there is a tumor here, and there is an implant required here, and there is a nerve here, you try to see the traditional way of gathering the information. They will take an impression basically, right? But impression will give only the outer surface, but a nerve is inside the jawbone. No way you will get traditional impression technique to know about this bone, the nerve. If dentist doesn't know about that nerve, so he may damage that nerve. So then if you have this kind of process, like it could be, say, you can make more transparent material, even see-through material, so you can very well plan, right? That is the advantage of VAT-based system. And DLP also same, but it is a mask-based thing. So the VAT, it's only a point by point with the laser it's going to process, but here the DLP, it's basically a mask. Entire layer can be exposed once and it will get cured, right? It's very faster than the previous one, but again you can get a transparent material here also. And multiple material, like say if you see this splints, wrist splints, so the splint, you can see the outer one, it's a flexible material, but if you see where the bone part here, so then you have a rigid material. You have a combination of rigid, flexible, but you can do it in a single setup. Why? Because you have a multiple material, the jets here. So some of them are dedicated to flexible or elastic material, some of them are dedicated to a rigid, or it may be opaque, or it may be a transparent, right? Or combination, you can print it. Sorry, and FDM, yes. So FDM, you can almost like a bone kind of appearance here. Say a bone kind of appearance here with the ABS plastic basically. So, and it's nowadays it's everybody will have this kind of a printer with your lab. Why? Because the Scott Crump patents expired long back, and now this is very started duplicated people. And anyway, so you have a powder bed fusion with polymer, or even with the metal. You may be interested with the metal. Why? Because you are going to print some implant, maybe a dental implant, or maybe a knee, or maybe a knee braces, or maybe a femoral joint. So you may be interested with the powder bed, and that to titanium 6-4, maybe cobalt chrome or 316L, right? So then you can very well process here, right? And then multicolor, multi-material, yes, you have a binder jetting system, you can very well do that. And you have a very big sized anatomy. Yes, you can make use of a laminated object manufacturing system, so you can make a big sized, say, body parts. And then coming to how do you, say, develop a medical application here, right? So how do you develop a medical application? So first of all, how do you capture the patient data? The patient data, sometimes a surgeon needs to know about the internal structure of the, say, brain or the skull, right? And sometimes, so you are trying to do some sort of, say, artificial limb. You are trying to make a prosthesis of hand or a leg, so on. So in that case, hand or leg, you are trying to scan the outer surface. You are trying to get the amputee's hand or a leg or whatever prosthesis that you are trying to, right? So in that case, you are trying to capture, or even in case of a dental dentures, you are trying to get the outer surface. So in that case, go with any 3D scanner. That is, normally you use a 3D digitizer, 3D scanner, which can capture in terms of point clouds, and you fit those points like a triangle, in this case is STL, and you fit a surface or a solid. So your job is done, right? So basically, you have only two kinds of situations. One situation is surgeon wants to understand the interior part of the body. Then you may be asked to undergo a CT, MRI, or PET, or maybe a ultrasound, whatever it is. So you have a different scanning modalities. That is a one option. Otherwise, external surface or external body part, they're trying to capture it. Then you go with a kind of a 3D scanner or reverse engineering or 3D digitizing, whatever you call. So let it come from a CT, MRI, or it could be a point cloud data, which has come from any white light scanner or a blue light scanner or any 3D scanner for that matter, right? Like your CMM, normally what you do, it's more for free-form surfaces. So either it could be internal or external. You acquire the data. Once you acquire the data, now we have discussed, if it come from this route, you have a two-dimensional grayscale images, that is CT or MR images, and you have other hand as a point cloud data. You have either a probe or either a laser, but you are getting a point, you're getting millions of points which has been captured from the amputee's hand or the patient processes where you are trying to develop, right? So there's a point cloud data. So then you have either a reverse engineering or medical image processing software, just now we have discussed. So this, it can be registered your data, right? So the density of the bone or the density of the tissue, then you can segregate. So then you can ultimately you create a STL file or IGS or DFX or application, which application you are looking at. Right now we are talking about AM, so probably you can stop it there at the STL level, that is the triangular facet level. Just take the points and then you join it, right? Or otherwise your images, your DICOM images, you can make a triangular mesh, then you stop it there. But still you want to do some kind of designing in a, say, customized implant, then you may require to go with a CAD model, a surface model, or maybe a solid model. So in that case, you adapt any kind of modeling technique or a freeform modeling, and finally your CAD data is ready, right? So then how do you see that, okay, you captured and you printed, then how do you, the application I'm talking about, either just simply a model to diagnose the patient condition, the health, that may be the primary level of application, or even it could be a kind of a tool like a jig or a fixture or a template, while operating a surgeon will have some kind of support. So that is possible, right? Or implant, it may be directly, it may be a permanent implant or it may be temporary implant, but it's going to be an implant, or it may be a scaffold for tissue engineering, right? Or even it could be a surgical planning simulation FEA model or a medical device. So you have plenty of applications. Once you reproduce your body part, basically, right? Then you can make use of any one of these applications. So in a summary, so you start, you try to see the the cycle here, right? So the doctor, in fact, the patient is going to be the start point here, right? So the patient, maybe the doctor will give a medical indication, and the radiologist will come into picture, either a CT, if it's a bone structure, CT, soft, it may be MRI, or it may be blood circulation or cancer, maybe a PET, your radiologist will come into picture, right? And right after, your computer specialist or the CAD guy, or who is going to process these images and then use those and 3D reconstruct it, right? And then once you have done that, just now we have discussed, and then you have additive manufacturing machine, you print that model, right? And where your AM knowledge is going to play a major role here. And of course, you sit with the surgeon, right? And helping him. Basically, it's an interdisciplinary kind of research, right? You need to have a lot of collaboration with the doctor, surgeon, radiologist, right? So then you do that. Finally, again, your doctor or a patient is going to be the end user, right? So where you started with the patient and end with the patient, right? So this is a typical process chain. So yeah, I don't want to repeat the first lecture slide. The intention, which we understood how we can generate a topology or a lattice-based design. So that is right from the scratch, or maybe scan data like which you are talking about, CT or MRI data, right? So you have AM, yes, it is very good for personalizing, customizing, or mimicking the bone, or could be any tissue for that matter, right? And you have a pediatric heart surgeon, for example, a month's baby or a day's baby should be getting operated. So how complex that surgery is going to be. But nowadays you have FDA, of course, like ICMR in India. So even India nowadays, we are even have a national additive manufacturing policy, so which was initiated by NCAM and MITI, that is Ministry of Information Technology, right? So even ICMR is looking after, why? Because FDA, yes, it is a US based regulator, but India also we have ICMR, right? But anyway, you have some regulator who is going to give a certification qualification, right? Something like your aerospace applications, yes, you have a FAA or Semilac in India, like you talk about defense, and Srinivas may be good in that, like he can share his experiences also with the Semilac, how they are working with the defense people, the scientists. And here even ICMR or even with the FDA, yes, you can get it certified, right? So whether you can make use of that software or material or process or the product, so you have a lot of protocol here, especially these two areas, aerospace, medical. Yes, we need to get the regulator approvals, certifications, right, qualifications. But anyway, yes, people are doing it in a fast track, right? And personalized medicine, this is quite interesting, right? In drug delivery, even in Ayurvedic medicine in India. So people are even, the dosages, you can customize or you can personalize to the patient. Majority of the time you may be taking underdosed or overdosed, but you can exactly personalize your medicine. That's going to be the, in fact, FDA has approved recently, the 3D printed pills have been approved by FDA recently, right? So you can see a lot of, say, breakthroughs maybe in this direction. It is not surprised to have, you are going to swallow a 3D printed pill very soon. And also orthopedic casts, again, you're lightweighted, maybe aerospace, maybe medical, you can correlate, right? So lightweighting, here also bone, you are trying to, so you have a cork-tail bone and you have a spongy bone, right? Or cancellous bone, whatever you call, like a porous bone, cancellous bone. So you can very well mimic, and you can personalize. You have a diabetes, for example, and he needs to have a sole, that is a personalized sole. Yes, you can do it here very well. You can personalize, you can customize, you can make as per the exact patient requirement or diabetes requirement, the sole that you are going to print it. Yeah, you can see tons of case studies where your AM is going to play a major role, like in terms of removing a huge tumor, and you can match the complexion and you can match the texture, right? So you can very well do that. You can print it in silicon, right? But still, yeah, there should be a lot of development must happen in this direction. Yes, across the world, at least 2-3 companies, they are even trying to, even they are printed this kind of structures. But anyway, we are going to see very soon, this is going to be the much revolutionized. So even you try to see, dental prosthesis, like you can have dental crowns, dental bridges, and where your mass customization is going to play a major role, right? So, and country like India, we have a huge requirement of these, each teeth and each crown is different. And at least people are looking, say in India, at least I can say you have millions of people are who requires this kind of solution. Even you try to see aligners, teeth aligners is another area where just nowadays you have, anyway, my next slide will talk about. So you can very well do a kind of a dental prosthesis or tooth aligners or hearing aids or hip prosthesis, right? And it could be a hearing aid or even it could be an AirPod. You have only 3 options, right? It may be L or XL or it may be M, but it can be your canal could be scanned and you can very well customize, personalize your AirPod, or even it could be a hearing aid, right? So you can very well do that. And try to see this kind of a teeth aligners. So like the early versions of these teeth aligners, normally it could be a kind of a clip or a kind of a wire kind of a thing, right? It looks very ugly. But now you can see like a LCD based system or a VAT based system, which you can print it in 100% transparent material. Hardly you can notice whether he or she won a kind of a teeth aligner like this. So even you can fix up an appointment, like nowadays you have 2C, right? So where they will come with the intraoral scanner. So they will scan your teeth, right? And then you need not move from your home. They will come to you, they will scan with the intraoral scanner, they will take that data, right? And they will make this kind of a aligner. That's the first sitting. And you can fix it. Maybe next sitting, maybe after 1 month, 4 weeks or 5 weeks, again they will come and get it. You fix up with an appointment. You need not go to the even dentist, right? So your supply chain, you see, try to see the supply chain or the logistics involved here, right? It's very simplified, right? But anyway, and hardly you can notice whether he or she won a kind of a teeth aligner. So yeah, so you can see several cases like this. And also the prosthesis that we are talking about, an amputee hand or amputee leg, very well you can scan the survived one and you can exactly replicate, taking a mirror image of the survived one to the amputee side, right? You can very well do that. And like for kids, this is a kind of a Rex. This Rex, if you see, traditionally they make this heavy and size is also not for that shade. But you can very well customize, you can make more lightweighted Rex here. These Rex are lightweighted and personalized as for the user's requirement, right? And here also you can see a lot of say dental aligners, and you can see these kind of and in India, like we have Jaipur, we are very good in doing this kind of prosthesis, right? But we never see the kind of artistry involved. Always you will be given one color, one design. But now if you could able to integrate your 3D scanning technology and 3D printing technology and matching the kind of profession you are doing it. Maybe you may be she is a pop singer and she is a software professional and he is an athletic, right? So you can very well, they can choose the color or the texture or whichever way, and a lot of robotics also involved here. But right, which we can even see a kind of technology which will enhance the better societal life, right? So anyway, so which we can see a bike rider, so where the process is hardly you can notice whether he or she won a kind of a prosthetic leg. Hardly you notice it. Like you can very well match the complexion or the textures, right? So where you can very well do that. And let me come to the last part of my presentation. Like say you try to see these cases. Our experience with this is the first case study I'm going to discuss is the cranial. This patient met with an accident and this skull part of the cranial, the bone that which protects the brain, you will call that portion of the skull is a cranial bone. The cranial bone. So here the challenge is your bone is not uniform thickness across the entire skull, and then the challenge here, we need to design carefully, and we need to take several measurements, and we need to do a correct fitment of this implant against the skull. And you have a cerebrospinal fluid, that is a fluid which it generates in the brain, and it will pass all the way to the spine, right? And the fitment is very important here. So you can do model, simulate and print it and test it, right? And then you can have, sometimes we need to we need to simulate the number of fixation points. You are going to fix this implant against the skull of the patient, and then that fixation points location, your pressure of that cerebrospinal fluid will be varying. So what could be the optimal fixation position of these screws, and how many number of screws, right? So we can very well do a simulate such kind of a thing, and the material property also. Like then hardly you can have material which is biocompatible, and that too your facility must support such kind of material, right? That is another criteria which we need to understand. And finally you design, fabricated, but here you see it is a kind of a sandwich structure, your skull, right? So you have the inner thickness of the say skull is around 0.8, 0.9, and outer is 0.4, 0.5, and in between you have a porous structure. So no other way, other than 3D printing you can make in a single setup, right? So it is impossible, right? But here all, and that too it is a patient specific. So you can very well adjust this porosity as for the patient requirement, the personalized implant which you can design, right? And the next case study is a dental case study. So as I already said, like you have this kind of a nerve here, and through a conventional method they will take an impression. Taking an impression, you will get only the outer surface of the jaw information, but not the inner the nerve, alveolar inferior nerve, and ultimately they are going to fix this screw, and by chance they may under drill or over drill, right? So then if you have a model like this, so this we have done almost 12-13 years old case, this one, but now you have a see-through material, right? Like you have a LCD based or a SLA technology which you can even see through that say the nerve which it may be passing from this condyle portion and touching mental foramen, and again it will come other side of the condyle portion. So you can very well give these models and sit with them and then let them rehearsal the surgery, like what could be the diameter of the drill, right? Pilot drill and all that they can do on this, and what could be the orientation, what could be the depth, right? And what could be the diameter. So all that they can rehearsal or they can plan, and straight away they can go to the operation theater and they can fix during the surgery, right? This is where we can make use of this. And another case study, it's a mandibular distraction osteogenesis. By birth she had asymmetry, or the bone is not grown proportionately. That's what you can see, the left side and the right side. And because of that she could not open. Normal opening is 5 to 6 centimeters, right? And then here and bone will have its natural growth, and that depends on the age, gender, the family, and then other habits, food habits and all. But anyway, so here in this case the CT data has been taken and it has been reconstructed. Now this is a mimics generated 3D model after taking the CT data and reconstructing it, and then they will use this device called a distractor. So they will cut the bone and they will leave that bone, and bone will have its natural growth, right? And then that growth, that will be controlled by this device, and if you rotate it, it will be advancing, right? And then ultimately what we need to do, if you try to see, this is a biomodel which it has been taken from the patient scan data and it got printed, which you can see if it is semicircular, the healthy a patient should be a semicircular one, but because she had a deformity, or by birth the bone has not grown proportionately, which you can see, we can assume that this is the healthier side, the ramus height is this much, and you have the ramus side, other one is very shorter. We need to lengthen this bone, and in such a way that it should increase the length up to this, right? So, and then we need to twist the bone. So all that we can, so it will vary from patient to patient, right? And for this, for her case, so we can do all that vector calculations. So what could be the twisting angle, and how much we need to twist, and how much we need to stretch that bone, right? So which you can see, this is before the surgery and after the surgery. But still we can notice some kind of, say, asymmetricity here. That you are correct. The reason here is, so the bone growth is there vigorously up to teenage, but she is 8-9 year old. Now it has been overcorrected right now. Once she turns 20 years, it should be, final correction should be done. And the next case study is a cancer patient. You can see this is a cancer affected bone. So then here what we need to do, we need to say, anyway we need to remove that cancer region, the bone, right? Then how much we need to remove, where we need to remove, and if we are going to remove that part, and we are going to say supplement with some implant here, we are going to affix an implant here. So what is the size of that implant, right? So then we can do all that in a software, initially designing it, modeling it, so then taking the survived one as a assistance, and we can do mirror, right? And then you can make use of this model, cut it, right? So and then finally you can design optimal implant for this case. So in this case, again we are taking the help of lattice structures. That's what we discussed in the previous discussion also. This lattice structures, again it is patient specific, which we are trying to mimic it. And it will serve both the purposes. One is lightweighting, another one is osseointegrity and the cell growth, right? So then that will be taken care here. And they will use these plates, but this is our first attempt to fix the implant into the patient body, but we could not do it. There will be several procedural things. But at least what we have done in this case is we have given these models for them to do a kind of say the plates or the steel or the titanium plates, they bend like this, and they will take a fibula bone here. So you have two bones here, from the knee to the ankle there will be two bones. One is tibia, that is a load carrying bone, and you have God has given one spare, that is a fibula. If anything goes wrong, the bone grafting, self grafting, they will make use of that bone, and they will make use of that bone, and with the help of this as a say support, right, or the guide, so they will try to say fix it or carve it during the surgery, and they are going to fix it like this. But that is going to not so a better solution. But that's what we came to know, that though they have done this is with the post-operative X-ray image, but it should be revisited, the surgery. Why? Because it's not a successful surgery. So the conventional, wherever you have a conventional surgeries are getting failed. So this guy is there to say help you out. So wherever you have a conventional procedures, surgical procedures, or making very tough or complex. And the next case study, this is a TMJ, that is temporomandibular joint ankylosis. So you have this joint here, lower jaw, upper jaw. This joint is responsible for articulation of your mouth. That is 5 to 6 centimeters for a healthy person. You must open 5 to 6 centimeters, opening of the mouth if you are healthy. So, but you can see she had a birth problem. The one side of the joint, you have two joints either side, right? And one side of the joint it got fused by birth. But because of fusion, what is going to happen? If you have two joints are free, then articulation will be normal. But one side like this, and how she could able to open that she has been surviving for the past 20 years. And then, which you can see anyway. So with this is what I am talking about. This joint got fused, but if you see the other side of the joint, it is free. But again, God has given a hint. We can take these as a reference, as a healthy side, and we can design the same geometry, dimensions, form, everything on the other side, right? And first we need to do a distraction osteogenesis, as I already explained this procedure. We stretch forward this bone, right, which we can see 1 mm, 2 mm, 3 mm, 4 mm, 19 mm, 21 mm, so like this. So now we can see this is the initial condition before the distraction. Now we can see after distraction, now it has been aligned, right? This is during the transformation, fixing that distractor during the transformation, and which is this is the before and this is the after, but still the game is not over. Why? Because this should be why this is so complex. If you ask any oral maxillofacial surgeon what could be the toughest surgery, if you ask him, immediately he will say TMJ, ankylosis. Why? Because you have a lot of nerve system here very adjacent to this joint. That's very challenging, and that too you are trying to almost what you are trying to do. So you are going to resect that the fused joint, and freshly you are designing and you are fixing the implants over there. And this is what I am talking about. So anyway, this is CT data, and then designing, modeling it, and again taking the other side as a, and basically you have the upper jaw, that's called the maxilla. You have a mandibular mandible, right, from the lower jaw, that's called mandible. So what I am trying to say here, so you have a, we need to cut this portion, and you have this mandible condyle portion, and maxilla you have this zygomatic arch, and this is a joint, right? This is going to be a joint. We resected this, and this is what it's going to be, and then we are going to fix the screws here on the maxilla as well as in the mandible side. This is what it's going to be. This is a prototype, and this is the implant, which it has been printed in titanium 6/4 powder bed system. And anyway, these are the and we design a template also. Why? Because he or she, the surgeon, has to fix the drill a hole and fixing that screws, right? Just like that, he or she cannot drill, right? Say, and that it is a patient specific. So based on that, so this is the templates. They will get a standard templates also, but that won't work out, right? This is patient specific requirement. So then this is the template design, and with the help of that template, so they will use their say drills to fix that screw, right? This we filed a patent. This has been granted in June 7, 2024. This for the surgical procedure, the TMJ reconstruction. And I was evident inside the operation theater along with Ian Gibson. Probably this is the same Gian course which I conducted. Yeah, that is during his visit, and we conducted 2 courses. One is probably you might have read his book, Additive Manufacturing, very well-known book by Brent Stucker, Ian Gibson, and now you have one more author also. 3 author. First author is Ian Gibson. So we have a collaboration through that Gian only, first Gian and second Gian. So during that time we fixed this surgery, and we have and I was also there inside the operation theater. So it is very brutal kind of surgery, but anyway, so nevertheless, say for the past 20 years she has been surviving, but once it has been released, the joint, after 20 years, now this joint has been released, means now she could able to open her mouth 6 or 5 centimeters, right? So after 21 years, and this is during the surgery, this implants, which it has been fixed from the upper jaw, that's called maxilla, and the lower jaw, mandible. This is mandible side, and this is the maxilla side. Now she doing good, and she got engaged recently. Oops, I'm trying to play the video, but anyway. Yeah, now you can see she could able to open her mouth, normal opening, 5 to 6 centimeters, normal biting, normal chewing. So after 21 years, she has been surviving like that. So there is no harm for the life, but the societal life, better societal life, right? So that's what this technology not only meant for, say, non-living things, but it can be meant for the living beings also. Like where your conventional surgical procedures may not be help you out, but this technology is always you can integrate. And last case study I'm going to discuss is Bacil Osseo integrated implant. This is an accident case, and none other than this technology will give a solution for this. Why I'm saying is, so he met with an accident, he lost his 5 teeth along with the bone support. If you have a bone support, they use a conventional implants 1-to-1. They will fix these screws and they will fix the abutment and they will use the artificial tooth. But unfortunately, she lost 5 tooth along with the bone. So 1-to-1 conventional, no way. So then indigenously we need to design implant. That's what design, and then this is a placement and testing it for the biting force, chewing force and all that. And this is the prototype, and this printed on titanium 6-4 again on the metal powder bed system. Yeah, this is during the surgery. So this just snap fit here, right? This during the which we can see this implant has been fixed here. We published in Rapid Prototyping Journal this case. Yeah, you can see this is a post-operative surgery. This implant, and this is a permanent implant, and on top of it you have these at least 4 teeth has been accommodated, right? So in this way we can indigenous design of the implant. There is no other way to do a surgery here. The standard implants won't work out here. So you can see several cases where some abnormal growth of the tumor, or some cleft cases, or some say trauma cases or accident cases, you have plenty. And okay, so far we are discussing about the bone replacement, joint replacement, or some extent a simple tissue thing. But what is going to be the future? So future is going to be the organ printing, right? So where the material need not be a synthetic material, which is a man-made material. No, absolutely it is a natural material, and that too it may be a living cell is going to be your material that you are going to print it, right? And you make a bio ink. Normally it is a kind of injections kind of technology, like you have extrusion with a kind of a syringe, right? Then you can make this cell ink. You add some collagen, like a natural collagen, and prepare it, add some nutritions, right? And then do a cell cultivation, put it in an incubator and reactor, test it, and again you put back. So that is the idea, right? That is about organ printing, or say bioprinting, or regenerative medicine is all about. So they will extract a cell from your own body and put it in an incubator and add proteins, cultivate it, incubate it, test it in a reactor, and finally if it succeeds, then put back into the, they will take a piece of even the own organ, or maybe the living cell, that it may be stem cell. Now everybody is having stem cell bank now. So you can make use of those stem cells for that matter, right? So that's what then just try to see what is state of art. Yeah, you can classify these organs into a 3 or 4 level complexity. First level complexity, for example, skin. Yes, people have already done. Blood vessel, second level complexity, right? They have done it. Bladder, they have done it. But maybe 4th level complexity, like you target a complex organ like a liver. Liver may be 1 to 1.5 kg weight, and you have a huge mass over there. But maybe time may be the answer for that. Nobody dreamt that the other organs or the tissues can be implanted, right? But we have seen a lot of breakthroughs, right? So yeah, let me conclude my talk here. So what we discussed during this lecture, we started with medical imaging technologies, as the CT, MRI, how we can extract the data and how we can process the images and how we can reconstruct it and we can print it. and how do you make use of those printed models, maybe virtual model or diagnostic model, pre-planning models, customized implants or processes, through my case studies and through the literature also. So I have explained how various applications of your biomodel or implant or device or template or anything for that matter, like which it has been extracted from the own patient anatomy, right? Yeah, and then finally organ printing. Yeah, I would like to acknowledge here, this is a collaborative work. So without the need or the requirement should come from the doctor or the patient, right? So we have a very good team, collaborators from Panniya Dental Science and Research Center, Hyderabad, Dr. Shekhar Reddy and Aditya Mohan, and we have Dr. P. Mahesh from Narayana Dental College for dental cases and for waddle maxillofacial cases, and then I have a couple of DST projects which I executed. And anyway, this we have already visited. So let me conclude here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes, please. Yeah, very good question actually. Yeah, that is the major challenge here. Yeah, that's what we tried to search with the procedure. What kind of a procedure for certification? See, yes, you approach machine vendor. Machine vendor says that yes, titanium 6.4 is a biocompatible, which FDA has approved. You can use it absolutely. As a material, yes, absolutely, it is certified, FDA certified, it's a biocompatible 6.4, yes, you can make use of it. But challenge here is, so at the moment you process it and you have a AM machine and you are processing it, you are melting it, and you are doing some sort of autoclave and some sort of the kind of sterilization you are doing it, and again we need to follow some guidelines for that FDA. But the challenge here is maybe why? Because we faced a lot initially, which we are first case which are trying to implant it. So yeah, in India still we are struggling, I can say. Why? Because not only in India, for that matter, even other countries also, they can say that it is got certified. Okay, material got certified, and what about the product at the moment you designed it? Yeah, still that is a challenge, but which we need to take some clearance from the ethical committee, and we need to do all this in presence of some committee. We need to do in presence of them. And ICMR, I think there is some regulatory kind of a policy matter, even with one of the institutes in Trivandrum, Sri Chitra. Yes, so then they got a kind of CMRI. And even not only FDA, even you have some kind of accredited bodies. That's what they are doing, Sri Chitra. So it has been accredited by some kind of say regulatory body, not exactly FDA. Yes, it is possible. Yeah, as far as FDA is concerned, they will say that it is certified material, titanium 6.4 or cobalt chrome or 316L. But at the moment you process it, you design it, you print it and putting into the body, yeah, we need to follow that kind of a thing. That's what our experience, but still I can say it should be foolproofed, but not happening in that way. Or otherwise commercially, if you see that initially we printed from Israel, one case. Why? Because they have a certified, they are giving a certification along with the implant which you printed. We send the design, they print it, but still it should be further. In India, I can say like some people are printing and fixing it, but it should be taken care like all these processes. Yes.
And are they coated?
No, it's not coated. It's only titanium 6.4. It's a printed as built.
So it is
and then
as printed. As printed, you have actually used it in the
yes, after sterilization, autoclave, and some. Yeah, it's not coated. We can do a coating also, hydroxyapatite coating or any other coating. Okay. Yes, it's possible. We can do it, but we didn't coat it. Okay. Correct.
And what's the procedure you are adopting actually to incorporate into patient?
Yes, that's what. Actually, the dental, if you take this, the dental association, and they have some sort of committees, and then it has been approved, and then the surgery should be done in presence of them, that committee and the ethical clearances. Yeah, and otherwise we what one or two cases from the Israel we got
got
certified. Yeah.
And of course, you take the patient's approval. And
Yeah, that's
concurrence.
always,
always
we'll take a declaration from the patient that normally we'll take, and over and above it should be taken.
And going forward, since you have completed the last 7-8 years before,
Right.
now are you following up with those patients and how that is metal is behaving? With
Yeah, very good question. Yeah. Why? Because, yes, yeah, so far 7-8 years, and depends, like it is a permanent implant or a temporary implant. So what I discussed is a permanent implant. 7-8 years, it has been followed up. It's under observation.
I mean, how the material is behaving with the body response, that becomes a data bank actually for the
Correct. Yeah.
approvers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm hearing in cases with stabler cups and other things. That the surgeons want to actually continuously take the data, follow up with the patients, take the data and give it for the authorities for regulation.
Yes, even with taking a population size like this and the age, and yeah, we can create even machine learning technique or kind of a AML can also be integrated. Yeah, that's good idea. Like, yeah, they have certainly some sort of population history, the data. So further, it can be integrated with kind of machine learning kind of thing. Yeah.
Small technical query I have. Small technical
Yeah,
query. You are using Mimics software or
Mimic software.
Thematic?
Thematic, yeah, both. Mimics, and both are from Materialized Belgium.
Okay.
So Mimics is more like processing of the images,
Yeah.
and Thematic is for designing the implant.
I mean, so generally the important aspect of this design is to create the defect structure in the bone,
Yes.
whether it is maxillocranial
Facial,
or
yeah. Correct.
facial or is it a stabler cup. The bone is defective. There is some defect because of the cancerous cells and
Yes.
all. So the defect region has to be captured and redesigned, and the
Right.
positive part of that, the negative part of that defect
Yeah,
structure
it is
has to be
symmetric.
incorporated in
It is a symmetric defect, or then we will mirror it. But is a asymmetric, we need to do right from the scratch. If it is symmetric, yeah, it will be mirrored and it will be redesigned. Yeah.
Mostly what we see is an asymmetric structure only,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Correct.
That has to be incorporated into the implant. Then
Right.
So which software is most suitable, Mimics or Thematic for that?
Yeah, no, see, I don't want to comment. Normally, these two, one is for processing, another one is for design. So, without that thematic, you cannot design. Mimics is basically for basic.
Is there any open source software
Yes,
available
yes,
which
3D
can do it
slicer.
effectively?
3D slicer, I mentioned in my presentation.
Sorry to just extend. What I am hearing from other researchers in this aspect is they say the exact 3D slicer and all is not able to exactly join the
Correct.
defect regions.
Correct. And also that is not FDA approved.
Wh- wh-
Those softwares may not be FDA approved, but these commercial softwares are FDA approved.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, if you have a commercial system, then the capabilities and the features may be, and accuracy may be high versus the open source softwares. Correct. Yes. Yeah, actually, that is very much needed, open source softwares in this domain. Why? Because all the way it is very expensive. As far as design is concerned, then they need to bear the design charges, and the 3D printed is a titanium. Obviously, it is a costly material. Yes, it should be further. We filed Indian patent also, both ways. That is around 25. No, not lakhs. Maybe 2.5 lakhs, not 25. 2.5. Stop it here. Maybe you can take the examination. The people. Yeah, may I ask to occupy one row the credit, the people who opted for the credit earning, which one? Can you please occupy this column? The people who opted for the credit. Yeah, and rest of the people